Welcome to today's video. Today's question comes from Daniel, and it's regarding personal development or spiritual development, or should we do both? So Daniel said, my mind is currently strongly seeking personal development as it sees me as insufficient. It constantly creates things I should be doing to improve myself. This is reinforced in the world as I'm bombarded with the message that I don't have enough this and I'm not enough that, etc., etc. There's also a belief that even with spiritual development, personal development will always have to take place in order to function in the world. I have a deep desire just to be totally myself, and the mind seems to believe that personal development is the only way to reach that. In parentheses, be the best version of yourself. And that spiritual development is an excuse to give up. So I'm glad you bring this up, Daniel, because ultimately this is something that we all experience to some degree when we encounter these teachings on the path and we want to go deeper, yet we feel like there is still a part of us invested in the old ways of trying to always be better and improve ourselves and be who the world wants us to be. So I'm glad that you brought this up and we can clear these things. And that is really why I create these question answer videos, because I want to create like a vault of all the typical problems that we all go through. And then, that these videos are always there for you to reference based on whatever issue that you're going through. So I'm glad that the teaching has brought this into your experience, that you do see that the importance of spiritual development. You see that you don't have to be what the world wants you to be, because without seeing this, we constantly identify with the changeful person, which is a process. Notice, the person that you are, the person that you take yourself to be, is a process, a changeful, ever changeful process. And no matter how much work it does on itself or in its life, there's always a feeling of insufficiency. I know this very well because this is the paradigm that I also came from into these teachings. When the beginner spiritual teachings came into my experience, it was more so like personal development and meditation, but nothing like that deep. It was all just about improving myself, becoming the better version of myself. And that is exactly what I needed at that time. Like when we're totally shattered and broken, we do need to empower ourselves and quote unquote become a bigger ego before we start to see even the limited nature of that empowered, prideful ego, which is what happened in my case. After I went through that phase of being empowered and being powerful, I started to see that even the empowered ego is constantly restless, fearful, afraid of the future, and has this pit of insecurity at its core. So from there, as you begin to embark on these teachings, you're no longer just doing personal development for personal development's sake. You're no longer just doing it unconsciously acting on your desire for fulfillment. You see that, okay, personal development is the way that this personal experience works. It is necessary to some degree, sometimes, and sometimes it is totally not. Sometimes it may be very necessary, but you're no longer just partaking in it because the world has told you that this is what you need. You're no longer doing it to be somebody so that you can feel enough or so that you can get approval. You start to wake up to these things, and I'm glad you are. So that is first and foremost. Notice that the person is a process, and it will constantly be going through development of change. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Sometimes it has these ups, sometimes it has these downs. So the second thing is understand that spiritual development is always the most important. Without spiritual development, you will continue to identify with the changeful person. So spiritual development is the highest. Always this curiosity to understand yourself, this curiosity to understand your experience should be your highest priority. And everything else in your life including personal development, including your business or work, including your relationships. All these are like avenues through which you encounter these experiences and challenges which reveal to you more and more about the truth of things. Everything is just like sort of like a game that you're playing in order to learn more about what all of this is, to understand reality deeply. You see, because when you have that attitude, then if you feel like right now personal development is necessary, then you will partake in it and then you just let it happen. But it's not like you're identifying with it. You're not like you're doing it out of a need for wholeness. It is just the need of this moment. Sometimes some personal development is necessary for you to like mature into a role that you're playing. Like, for example, I had to go through a lot of personal development to even get the confidence to make YouTube videos. At that phase, it was necessary. And, at that phase, I was very disciplined. I was doing all the things that I needed to do and really working on myself. But again, that is a phase. So personal development is needed in phases. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not needed. When you start to practice these spiritual teachings, it's not like you're denying or you're resisting personal development. You simply start to see it as a role that you're playing, a game that you're playing, rather than myself that is going through this process of change. That is the biggest thing that I ask you to explore. That is one of the things that will help you just balance both of these worlds, because ultimately they're not in conflict. Now, how to determine when you should practice personal development and when not to? Well, always resort to your feelings. What you're feeling about something, what you're feeling pulled towards will always tell you where this experience is flowing. And just follow that, pursue that. So I keep it very simple. When I'm feeling a call to some sort of discipline or some sort of personal development, whether it be my physical body or whether it be some sort of like business work or personal life work, relationship work, I just simply partake in it and I let that happen. The more important aspect of it is that you start to observe that this changeful process of the person that is happening, this changeful process of the mind that is happening, the changeful process of the world that is happening, your circumstances that is happening, is not what you are. It is something you are aware of as a changeful experience. So in this way, you will just let wherever this personal experience is unfolding and flowing to unfold without identifying with it. And you see, out of that arises authenticity. You said over here, I have a deep desire to just be totally myself. My friend, you cannot help but not be yourself. You are always yourself, no matter if you're doing personal development or not doing personal development. You start being inauthentic, though, when you start to believe in the person as what you are. So look at the personal expression as like a totally spontaneous expression. Sometimes it will be this, sometimes it will be that. Whatever it is, just allow it to be, allow it to unfold without fear of the future, without buying into some insecurity or desire for some approval. These are the things that make you inauthentic. Whereas when you just let whatever is be as it is and don't identify with it, then you are always as you are. And what will arise from that on the appearance level, on the personal life level, is the authentic expression of this person you call Daniel in this life that you call Daniel's life. So that is authenticity. Letting the personal expression flow wherever it must flow. If right now it feels like I'm strongly feeling inclined towards personal development, then you do that. If right now it feels like I just want to let go of all of that and I just want to, do nothing or work on my spiritual practice, then do that. Have the courage to follow your intuition, your feeling, what you feel is right for this particular moment, the needs of this moment. And that is your authentic expression. Lastly, start to observe this thing which feels insufficient as not yourself. Meaning, you see this feeling of being insufficient. You see these thoughts of saying, oh, you're not sufficient, you're not enough. You are not these thoughts. Don't identify at that level. This feeling of incompleteness is also observed. This feeling of incompleteness arises only when you take yourself to be a mere person. So observe these things arise within you rather than identify with them. And don't do personal development only because of this like feeling of insufficiency. Do it genuinely because it's sort of fun. You know, like when maybe you've played video games in the past and you're just like, I remember in the video game I used to play a lot. It was called San Andreas. It was from Grand Theft Auto. And that was one of my favorite games growing up, as funny as that is. And I remember inside of that game, that was one of the first games where you could really work on your main character. You could make him go to the gym. You could, like when you run a lot with him, then you upgrade in your stamina and whatnot. So it's like you really worked on that character just for fun. Like it is, notice it as the game that you're playing. Notice it as like the theme of the current unfoldment. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't keep identifying with this feeling of insufficiency and believe that you working on yourself will help you feel sufficient. Because trust me, no matter how much work you do on your person, like personally, no matter how much money you make, no matter how loved you are by your partner, ultimately, if you identify yourself as a person, if you identify with the body, with the personality, this feeling of insufficiency will always be there. This insecurity about the future will always be there. So this is what we are learning to outgrow. This is why I say spiritual development is ultimately you should be your highest priority. All right. Now for that, of course, you need to stay consistent with your meditation practice and these spiritual principles. So right now I'm giving away a free resource. I have 2 free resources. One is my self-inquiry guide, which will walk you through this discernment process of what is you and what is not you. It is a free PDF document. You can click the link down below in the description to download it. All right. And also, if you are seeking additional support, join my free support group. Inside of that, I have some mini courses that you can go through and you can interact with our community. It's an amazing resource so that you can stay consistent with your practice. But if you are really struggling with this and you want to follow like a structured day-by-day program and you want my help personally, then you can also learn more about my School of Awakening, which is going to offer you so much more support and help. We do weekly meetings over there as well, Q&As and meditations. So now you can join that program with a very affordable monthly membership. I'll leave the info down in the description for that as well. Whatever you resonate with, go ahead and take advantage of that resource. I want to thank you for posing this question and thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next time.